Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Today, we're going to be taking a closer look at African resistance movements and how African nations and chiefs were able to resist, or in some cases, not resist, European imperialism. You'll recall from your math activity last week that there were two locations in Africa that were able to resist European control. And one was Ethiopia, which you're going to definitely be looking at closer today. The other was Liberia, which actually is kind of a unique history that we don't necessarily talk about. It was set aside for the United States, although we didn't really use it as a colony. Instead, we were taking freed African slaves and sending them, sorry, let me get the cat out of here. Freed African slaves. There was this entire Back to Africa movement. And we were sending them back to Africa. We didn't really control their government. They were controlling themselves, but it did remain free because of that. Ethiopia, however, has a unique part in history because it actually was successful in keeping the Italians out, and they actually remained free. So what you're going to be doing today is taking a closer look at some of these resistances, both the successful Ethiopia as well as the few unsuccessful African resistance movements, and kind of figure out why. Why was Ethiopia able to be successful? Okay, let me just get our activity up here. All right, there we go. All right, switching over now. So what you need to do for today is to get to your textbook. It's World History Patterns of Interaction, pages 779 to 784, which is chapter 27, section 2, if you are looking at the online version that I had put in on Teams. Now, the first part of this chapter is going to focus on some information that we already know, both the different types of imperialism. Remember, there's direct imperialism, which an example would be the British Raj, where a European country comes in the case that we talked about, it was India, and they actually take away their government and put the British government in its place. And then they control everything. That would be direct imperialism. Indirect imperialism is the other type of imperialism, where you have local rulers who are controlling. So that would have been in India before the British Raj, before the Sepoy Mutiny, where they had local Indian princes controlling and they listened to the British, but it was still those local princes in control. And the same thing happened in Africa. They relied on local chiefs to kind of control those areas. And you see both type, both direct and indirect in Africa. So that first section of that chapter, we'll talk about that. I think it's a page or two. The section you really want to focus in on, and I think it starts on 780 or 781, there's a red header that says African resistance. That's what I would spend most of my time actually reading through. And that will talk about the successful fight by Ethiopia, as well as the failed Algerian, Touré, and Maji-Maji resistances. Now, they all have like a different story. The Maji-Maji in particular is really fascinating. It kind of reminds me of the Boxer Rebellion in some ways, which you'll see kind of why it fails. So I don't want to ruin too much with that, but certainly take a look. And again, it's in the African resistance part in that section. So you're going to research these resistance movements, and then you're going to answer this question in a well-developed paragraph. It's kind of, I don't want to say an essay because you're not writing an essay, but it's a mini explanation. Think of like the Article 9 activity that we did, or actually there's a whole bunch of activities that we've done that's very, very similar. Even the Korean debate. So the question is, why did the Ethiopian resistance succeed while other African resistant movements failed? So you're going to compare and contrast these movements. Why was Ethiopia successful? What did it have that the others didn't? Okay, so you're going to write a well-written paragraph. You're going to have a clear claim. In fact, your first sentence of your paragraph should be the Ethiopian resistance was successful because, right? Because that's what you're going to be arguing. And then you're going to support that claim with specific pieces of evidence from your research. Now, this is where things are going to be slightly different. I wanted to make one video for both honors and college prep just because you guys are basically doing the same activity, but there are slightly more requirements for honors. And you'll see, it shouldn't be too difficult, but I do expect a little bit more outside research for the honors. So if you're in college prep, you still have to use in-text citations, okay? What in-text citations are, we've done this before. You should know it by now. It is, in this case, the name of the textbook, World History, and then whatever page number you pull your information from. You have to use in-text citations every time you use a quote, every time you borrow information from the textbook, okay, or any other outside source. So everybody has to do in-text citations. My college prep students, you just have to use the textbook. That's the only source. Although if you would like to expand out and do further research, you're more than welcome to. You're just going to make sure that you cite all additional sources. Honors, you have to go outside the textbook. So yes, please use the textbook, and same thing we just discussed. Use the normal in-text citations, but you're also going to have to go on the internet, or I guess you might have. I don't know if anybody has old school encyclopedias anymore, but you have to go and find at least one additional source. So in that case, try to find, if you Google search any of those resistances, you're going to find tons of information. Try to make sure it's reliable. Look for .org.edu. Try to make sure that it's from a reliable source. And certainly if you have questions, you can always reach out to me and I can help you with that. For honors, and it will say on your instruction sheet, it's almost identical. There's just a couple sentences more here. Your outside source, you need a minimum of one. Certainly you can do more than that. You do have to create a works cited at the end. So the world history textbook in MLA format should be on there, and then whatever your source is, also in MLA format, okay? So college prep, you just have to use the textbook. Make sure you're doing in-text citations. Honors, you have to use the textbook, as well as one additional outside source. All your works cited in MLA format, okay? Everybody will be writing that paragraph though, regardless, which is why I did this video together instead of separating it out, okay? So if you have questions, please reach out. I'll be looking and I'll post answers, or if you email me, I will definitely email you back in a relatively short amount of time. Hope this is as interesting to you as it is to me, and hopefully it makes a little bit more sense now, putting everything in that map activity back into some larger picture here. And then just as a direction in which we are heading, on Wednesday we will start a discussion about the Congo, which is a very fascinating story. Unfortunately, not a very happy one, but we'll start to do some research for an activity that will take the majority of next week in order to do. We're going to do a bit of a mini trial or abbreviated trial of either King Leopold II or Mobutu. And I will give instructions later on for that. So that's kind of exciting. The only other thing that I'll say is I'm going to put in today's post as well a Zoom link. I decided to do one additional Zoom each week. It'll be on Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning. It's going to be short. I don't expect it being very long at all. It's not mandatory, but I wanted to give you another opportunity while you were working to ask questions. Fridays will be moved to 9:30. I had too many complaints about conflicts, despite the fact that I asked you guys when you thought was good. So it'll be 9:30 on Friday, it'll be 9:30 on Wednesday. And like I said, it's really just to go by questions you may have. If that's too early for you, I'm really sorry, especially during the week. We have specific timeframes the school district has given us that we have to stick to. And unfortunately for social studies, it is from 9 to 10. So I have to stay within that time frame. Okay, so I hope everybody is well. Stay healthy. Ask questions if you need any help. Okay, have a good day, guys.